Hello and welcome. I'm Makayla, and this is To Be Known, a podcast all about authenticity, vulnerability, and connection. If you are someone who struggles with the mindset that you shouldn't be truly seen or heard, either on a conscious level or an unconscious level, you might be someone who is stuck in the fear of taking up space. If you are someone who is constantly on the lookout of how you might be taking up too much space in your life or in the presence of other people, you might be stuck in this fear. The life that you are living right now, where you are not allowing yourself to be truly seen or to be truly heard, this is something that you can grow out of. It is just going to take a lot of time and attention and intention. We are going to start your overcoming this fear of taking up space today. This fear of taking up space is a mindset that is really, truly based in guilt and shame. Living a life based on these two things is not going to work out for you in the long run. At some point in time, whether it be now or later, you are going to realize that you are sick of living in fear, because this is something that truly overly consumes your life. This fear of taking up space, because you will constantly be on the lookout and looking for the ways that you might be taking up too much space, that you're annoying the people around you, that you are a burden to those in your life. You will be on the lookout constantly for those things. That's what a fear of taking up space truly entails. It's this idea that we are not worthy to be in other people's lives. We are not worthy to live our own life and to be seen and to be heard. As we talk about this fear of taking up space and how to overcome it, it is going to take time to change your thought processes. It is not going to be overnight. You are going to have to work on time and time again, moment by moment, rewiring your brain to not think in this way, to not base your interactions with people or even with yourself on this fear of taking up space. By the end of this episode, I want you to understand that people want you around and that you are not an inconvenience to the people in your life. You deserve to be here and to be with people just as much as anyone else deserves it. You are worthy of people's time, love, and attention. Just as you believe that about other people, you deserve to believe that about yourself. And that is something that I hope you learn today throughout this entire episode, is that you are worthy of people's time, love, and attention. And that you don't need to be so afraid of using your voice, allowing yourself to be heard, and allowing yourself to be truly seen for who you are as a person. I promise you that there are people out there in your life or beyond that will want to know you for you. It is possible for you to live a life where you aren't constantly in fear of taking up too much space, where you aren't constantly looking around and trying to see the ways that people might not want you there, or how you are an inconvenience to people, or how people hate you for who you are. You are able to live a life where you are not constantly doing those things. And I'm saying all of this because I've lived it, and I know that it is possible, because it is something that I am working on day after day, is overcoming this fear of taking up space. And it might sound redundant because, yes, I am using my voice on the internet to talk about this. I didn't truly realize until the beginning of this year, 2024, that I was allowed to use my voice and to speak up about my emotions and my experiences, and to let people fully understand me for me. This is something that is very new to me, this idea of vulnerability, authenticity, and connection. And I feel as though those three themes have so much to do with this fear of taking up space. If you are someone who understands this feeling and you are living in fear of taking up space, I just want you to know that taking up space does not mean that you are infringing on other people in your life. You are not taking away anything from anyone else by taking up space. You are doing this fully for yourself. You are letting yourself be the fullest version of yourself that you can be. You are showing yourself to yourself that you are allowed to occupy the space in your life and that you are worthy of the space you occupy. At the core of this fear of taking up space, you might be struggling with this "I am worthy" statement. Subconsciously, deep down, you might not believe that you are fully worthy. And this is something that we're going to be talking a lot about today. This idea of taking up space is rewiring our brain, reteaching ourselves that we are allowed to do that and that we should do that because we deserve to express ourselves fully, to let others know us fully, and to just live life without constantly being in fear. And fears can be overcome. This is something that I personally have done in my life. So I'm just going to be sharing with you what I have learned from my own experience. You deserve to take up space, to use your voice, and to express yourself fully. I want you to understand that because that is something that once I fully understood that for myself, I really allowed myself to get over this fear of taking up space because I was so worried that I wasn't allowed to do that I shouldn't take up space and that I should just be this perfect person that I thought was expected of me. I thought that I was supposed to just sort of be the best version of myself for everyone except for myself. It might take some love and time and attention, but you can get to a place where you are free from this fear. With all of that being said, I am going to share with you some of the things that I realized I was doing in my own life that led me to understand that I was living my life based in fear of taking up space. First things first is that I was constantly on the lookout of how I could potentially be a burden or an inconvenience to the people around me. I was on the lookout in the ways that I was taking up more space than I air quotes should, because I was worried that people would think I was an inconvenience or that I was a burden. I was worried that I was annoying people or just taking up too much of their time and energy. I was constantly on the lookout of how I was doing things wrong in other people's eyes. The second thing is that I really lacked confidence in my communication skills and I was overly apologetic. If you are someone who overly apologizes for things, this does not serve you. If you are someone who really lacks confidence in your communication skills and thinking that you will be able to get your point across or that you'll be able to protect yourself or your energy or are afraid of truly expressing yourself to other people, this is something that can be really hard to get over because it's not just you that you have to worry about. It's how the other person might react to your communication of whatever you're trying to say. And that's why it sometimes is the easier route by just literally not contributing anything to a conversation or not letting people truly see who you are or being overly apologetic, because it helps us keep the peace within our relationships and within ourselves. But does it really? The third thing is, and I kind of touched on it, I didn't realize that I was able to contribute things to a conversation. And sometimes I would just catch myself falling silent in order to let another person speak and to say whatever they want to say, contribute whatever they wanted to a conversation. If it's opinions, emotions, whatever it is, I would just take a back seat and observe, especially in a group dynamic. I noticed that I would just kind of sit back and let everyone else interact, and I would watch them and sort of try to interject when I felt like I could sometimes. And this is something where I just realized how hyper fixated I was on saying the perfect thing, or just worrying about if I was interrupting a situation or not letting someone speak however much they wanted to. It was very much based on a fear of taking up too much space in conversation. The fourth thing that I realized was that I was insecure about sharing my hopes and my dreams and the things that I'm proud of to other people, as well as, the times that I've failed or my mistakes. I didn't think that it mattered to other people. I didn't really think that people would care about the things that I care about for myself and for my life. I didn't think that it applied to me. Simple as that. The fifth thing I realized was that I truly thought it was unkind of me to say no to someone, even if it didn't align with my needs or my desires, or if energetically saying no to something would soothe me in a way, I still wouldn't do it because I just thought that it was unkind, and I thought that people would hate me if I did say no. I didn't realize that saying no was something that I could actually do. And this is kind of going along with like a people-pleasing tendency. I feel like people-pleasing and the sphere of taking up space do go together, if I'm going to be honest. The next way that I realized I was living a life based in the sphere of taking up space was that I had a very hard time being vulnerable with people in my life. I'm really good at talking about the logistics of things that have gone on in my life, but I was really bad at truly expressing how these things have impacted me, to really just talking about my emotions, because I didn't want people to judge me for talking about these things and how that would make me look, if it made me look weak, or if I was making people feel like I needed them more than I wanted them to believe that. I would just had such a hard time being truly vulnerable with people about how I felt about things that have happened in my life. The seventh and last thing that I noticed about myself was that I had a really difficult time asking people for help because I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be a hindrance on anyone's life or time or attention if I did ask for help. I did a lot of things by myself and handled a lot of things by myself because I just didn't want to burden anyone with what was actually going on that I needed help with. And those are some of the things that I've realized within myself that surround this fear of taking up space. And chances are, if you are someone who is living life based in this fear, some of the things that I said probably align with how you are living your life right now. And I just want to say it is okay that you are experiencing this and that you will be able to overcome these different aspects of your life, and you will be able to overcome this fear of taking up space. I just want to say that despite everything, despite the ways that you might be feeling right now, you will be able to overcome this fear of taking up space. I promise you, I have gotten a lot better at those things that were really holding me down, these ways that I was living my life based in this fear of taking up space. With all that being said, I just want to talk about some of the causes of this fear, because when we have awareness of everything that encompasses this fear of taking up space, when we have the knowledge of what might subconsciously be going on within ourselves, it allows us to then rationally think about ourselves without feeling the emotions and seeing how we want to grow and move past this fear of taking up space. So we're going to talk about all of the things that have to surround this fear, because you deserve to understand how this is showing up in your life and how you can change, because you deserve to live a life free from this fear of taking up space. So first things first, we are going to be talking about the causes of this fear. At the foundation of who you are, you might be suffering from a low sense of self-worth or self-esteem. You might be struggling with this feeling of being inadequate in your life or just not feeling worthy. This is something that is so difficult to deal with and leads to a multitude of different issues that you could potentially be facing in your own life. But when we are considering this fear of taking up space, on top of that foundation, you might have also received messages throughout your life that reaffirm this idea that you are a burden, that you might be a burden. You are not actually a burden. Let me say that one more time. You are not actually a burden, but you might have received messages throughout your life that reaffirm this idea. First things first, in your childhood, in your family, or in your social dynamic, there might have been people who have blatantly told you that you should not be seen or heard. Maybe they did it subconsciously, but you might have received messages that reaffirmed this idea that you are a burden to the people around you, that you should not take up space, that you should not express your emotions fully, that you shouldn't let people know who you truly are. Maybe in childhood, you found comfort or ease or peace in your life by shutting yourself down, by shrinking and letting yourself be small and not be heard or seen in order to let your life be easier. Maybe you experienced something in your childhood where bringing attention to yourself caused a lot more pain than shrinking yourself and not letting yourself take up space did. Childhood has an effect on this fear of taking up space, but social conditioning does as well. Whether it is a cultural or a societal norm that you might not, quote, fit, that pressures you into taking up less space than you, quote, should. And this is something where it really depends on your social position, on your minority status, on your privileges of how severe the social conditioning might have been for you. And this can really reaffirm this idea that you do not deserve to take up space because of who you are in terms of these social norms, these societal norms of what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. You are able to beat this fear of taking up space in seeing that you deserve all of the things in life just as much as anyone else, that you deserve to use your voice and to express yourself fully and to let people know who you are truly. Receiving messages that reaffirm this idea that you are a burden and that you should not take up as much space as you are is very damaging to our minds and to our psyches. We might be constantly on the lookout of how we in fact are a burden when we are stuck in this fear of taking up space. Another thing that can also affect this fear of taking up space is the fear of judgment. You are not going to be expressing yourself fully if you are scared about what other people think. That's just baseline. Like, it makes sense. You know, this fear of judgment and taking up space are so closely aligned. And chances are, if you are someone who struggles with perfectionism, if you are someone who feels as though you constantly have to be perfect, this is another cause that really goes hand in hand with this fear of taking up space. Because if you see yourself as anything less than perfect, then you are worried that you are a burden to the people in your life, or the people around you. When you are stuck in perfectionism, you are so worried that you are an inconvenience for not being perfect. And this also is a cause for this fear of taking up space. This fear of judgment and perfectionism are so closely aligned with this fear. Last but not least, any negative experiences that you have had throughout your life, whether it is bullying, neglect, abuse, criticism, whatever it is, there are so many things that can contribute to your fear of taking up space that it is really important to think about everything that you've gone through and how it might be contributing to this fear that you have within you. Because everything in our life affects us and makes us behave and think and act in the ways that we do. And it's okay that you are living a life based in this fear. This fear has kept you safe in your life. But now, if you are watching this, it might be hurting you more than it is helping you. And that is when it is time for you to grow and to move past this fear of taking up space. Earlier, I mentioned some of the ways that taking up space personally affected me in my own life. And now I'm going to give you some more and different ways that this fear might be showing up in yours. You might have a fear that you are going to come off as arrogant or obnoxious to people in your life in this fear. Or you might be constantly worrying about how you are a burden to the people around you. You might not be fully expressing yourself, your emotions, your needs, your desires, anything about yourself. You are biting your tongue. You are swallowing your words. And I always say swallowed words are swords in your throat. You might be literally doing this where you just choose to not speak because you just can't handle fully expressing yourself because it just feels like too much sometimes. Also, not going to things, not going to social events and fear that you are going to be a burden if you go or that you are not wanted there. Even though you got the invite, you don't want to go because you're worried that people don't actually want you there. And that is something that is really tough to break out of because once you start that loop that, oh, I'm not going to go because they probably don't want me, it is really tough for you to break yourself out of that saying no cycle. But I can promise you that there is going to be at least one person who will be excited to see you. I touched on this next way that taking up space also can come out, but overly apologizing. When we overly apologize to people, we do it because we want to come off kind and we want to come off caring and we want to come off as a good person. It actually does the opposite of what our intention of being a good person is. It makes people think less of us. I remember learning about this when I was in college studying psychology. This is something that has research behind it. The more you apologize, the more likely people are going to think less of you because of it. So don't overly apologize. It does the opposite of what you're wanting it to do. I wish I had the actual research, but I fully remember reading about this because it aligned so much with me at that moment. I was an overly apologetic person, very much so. And I remember when I heard about it and I read about it in class that it literally made me do a 180 about my apologizing because I realized that I was doing the opposite of what I wanted it to do. Another way that this fear can come out in your life is by minimizing your emotions. Instead of feeling your emotions fully, you might shrink them down. You might bottle them up. You might not let people know exactly how you're feeling, and you yourself might not even be letting yourself feel the emotions that you are validly supposed to feel. And this is something that can also be really hard to break out of when you are trying to face this fear of taking up space, because emotions, they take up a lot of space within us. And if we don't deserve to take up space, then why would we think that we deserve to feel our emotions? It's like, it makes sense why you get stuck in minimizing your emotions, if you don't believe that you deserve to take up space, if you don't believe that you deserve to feel them, this minimizing your emotions aspect is something that is so big in this fear. We also don't allow others to truly get to know us because we are so afraid of being a burden, of being seen, of being heard, because we have lived a life in fear of those things, that it is very hard for people to truly know who you are when you are living a life based in this fear. The last ways that this fear can also show up in your life are mental health issues, such as anxiety or overthinking or depression. These are all things that are really deeply tied with this fear of taking up space. Being afraid of taking up space makes you very vulnerable to the world around you. And you can get yourself in some pretty tricky situations when you are someone who is living a life based in this fear. It makes it so much easier for people to take advantage of you because they know that you are afraid of truly being seen, of truly expressing your emotions, of truly expressing the things that are wrong. They know that. There are people out there who will take advantage of someone who they see as weak. And this does not make you a weak person. This fear of taking up space does not mean that you are weak. It just means that you have learned that shrinking yourself in order for other people to be larger is something that keeps you safe. This fear has been your best friend throughout your life. This fear has kept you safe and comfortable. It has made life easier for you, but it has made things internally more difficult for you. And people can take advantage of this fear. People will smell it on you and they can take advantage of you. And if you have been in a situation where someone has taken advantage of this fear that you have, I am so sorry because it does make you vulnerable and people will know it. I have my deepest condolences for you, and I hope that this video can help you understand yourself and understand that you should allow yourself to live a life without this fear of taking up space, without this fear of being a burden in other people's lives or being a burden in your own life. You deserve to be free from it all. You deserve to be a bright light and to express yourself fully and to let yourself be known and be seen and be heard. With all of that being said, let's talk about overcoming this fear because this is what you deserve. And first things first is recognizing the fact that you are living in this fear and the things that have caused you to live your life in this way. Awareness is always going to be the first step. And I say it 1,000,001 times on this podcast. Awareness is critical. The next thing, positive affirmations. And I know this might sound silly, but whenever you are having a negative thought about yourself, instead of focusing on that negative thought, think of a positive one. Think of something good about yourself. Think of how you are able to express yourself fully, to let others see you, to let yourself be heard. Literally write Post-it notes, put them on your mirror, say all of the good things, come up with positive affirmations for yourself that you repeat to yourself fully on the daily, on the monthly, on the weekly, on the yearly. Come up with positive affirmations to help you rewire your thinking, because this is about changing your thought pattern. And positive affirmations are one of the best ways for you to literally rewire your brain. Because instead of thinking about those negative things, those negative thoughts that you have in your brain, transform those into positive thoughts and really focus on these positive affirmations that you personally come up with for yourself. Come up with things that reinforce this idea that you deserve to take up space in the world and that you are not a burden. Come up with things that tell you that you are enough. The next thing when overcoming this fear of taking up space is setting boundaries with people in your life. Boundaries can be so difficult when you are stuck in this fear, because when you are trying to draw a line in the sand between you and another person, it can feel like you are building a 40-foot tall wall when you are stuck in this fear. It can feel like the hardest task in the world, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. It can be very simple. This is one of the best ways to overcoming this fear, because you are training yourself, you are asserting yourself, your needs, your desires, your emotions, the things that you need in life in order to be okay, in order to be loved. You are letting people know what you need. And you are letting yourself take up space when you are setting boundaries. This will help you in so many ways. It will help you feel more secure in yourself and in your relationships. It will build self-confidence because you will have a sense of pride whenever you do this in your life. And you will feel more worthy when you have these boundaries in your life because you are protecting yourself and your energy. Another thing is, celebrate the small successes. For everything that you do, for every way that you change in this overcoming the fear process of all of these aspects of your life that you might be letting go of, celebrate them and let yourself feel happy for expressing who you are, for letting people get to know you, for letting yourself be seen and heard. Celebrate everything that you do throughout this process. Also, seek support. Let people know that this is something that you're going through and that you are actively trying to change. Chances are they might know this about you without you even saying anything, or they might not, and it might come as a total surprise. Whatever it is, I don't know, but seek support. Seek out loving relationships in your life where you feel comfortable enough to talk about the reality of this fear in your life. And I promise you, it'll lift a weight off of your shoulders and it will allow this person to feel so much closer to you as well as you with them. Another way of overcoming this fear is by recognizing the negative beliefs that you have and consciously choosing to create new ones. This kind of goes along with the positive affirmations idea that I spoke about earlier, but this is the practice of mindfulness. This practice of seeing what is going on in your mind and actively changing it, actively recognizing that you are just observing your thoughts, that you are seeing, oh, that was a negative thought. Let's change that. Let's shift that into a positive one. Mindfulness is so groundbreaking when you start utilizing it in your life. You will see infinite growth when you start practicing mindfulness in your own life. And with that being said, the last thing in overcoming this fear is be kind to yourself. Be your own supporter. Be the person in your life that tells you that it is okay for you to take up space, because this idea of taking up space, it is for you, by you, of letting yourself live your life to the fullest. Those are just some ways that you can overcome this fear of taking up space. But one of the best things that you can do if you are in the financial position, seek out professional help, because this is something that you can really benefit on talking to someone who is a professional and who is a neutral person in your life about. I'm going to say that a lot on the podcast. Go to therapy. Live, love, laugh therapy. Love it. I'm going to ask you some hard-hitting questions that I really want you to think about over the course of the remainder of today or tomorrow. Maybe take pen to paper, think about them, write about them. Keep this to yourself. Really dive in to these questions. Why do other people deserve to take up the space that you are not allowing yourself to? What makes them different or more deserving than you? Why are you not able to take up as much space as them? What makes you unworthy? Do you see that you are just as worthy as them? So yeah, those are some questions that I'm going to challenge you with today, because those are hard hitting. As I said earlier, this is probably a mindset that you developed over time in childhood, in adolescence, in your adult life. There has probably been situations or experiences that you have gone through that have led you to thinking in this way. This fear of taking up space is a mindset that is so based in guilt and shame, and you deserve to break away from it. You deserve to let yourself be heard and be seen and to fully express yourself and to take up the space around you. This fear has been something that has kept you safe from the people around you or the situations that you have been in. But it is time for you to push past this fear and overcome it, because it is possible. Taking up space does not mean that you are infringing on the people around you. Taking up space means that you are just letting yourself be who you are fully, without guilt, without shame, simply because you deserve to exist in the world. I know I asked you some questions earlier to sort of challenge this way of thinking, but now it is time for our question of the week. What is one way that you can use your voice or take up space this week? Think about it, write about it, talk to someone who you love and trust about it. Whatever it is, I want you to do it. This is another challenge that I am going to be giving you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that if you are someone who is struggling with this fear of taking up space, I hope that I helped you feel seen and feel heard. Go do something that allows you to take care of yourself today. If you're feeling a little emotional right now, go take care of yourself. You deserve it. You deserve your time and your love and your attention. With all of that being said, I just want to say that I am proud of you for watching this video, and I thank you for watching this video. It was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but I guess I just had a lot of things to say about this topic. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe. You could also listen on Spotify, follow on Instagram at tobeknown.co, follow on TikTok at tobeknown.co. All of the links are going to be down below. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Stay true to you. Bye.